Oh.
All right. Thank you for following the Infinite Thread. So Ben, here's the deal. We truly believe our attention is limited, but also has infinite potential. And we happen to be here on the same frequency with you right now. And this is more about like the three of us having a cool conversation, and more like, hey, we think you're cool, let's be friends, versus some kind of packaged podcast deal. So we have, let me just introduce then, we have our guest today, Mr. Ben Walker. And we think you're cool. So what's up, man? Tell us who you are.
That's all I've ever wanted. Wanted to be cool.
Yeah. At least a little from what we know about you on Instagram, you know? The short shorts. Are you rocking them? You got silkies?
Oh yeah. I got the silkies. The thighs are free. As they should be.
Let it eat,
buddy.
Commie propaganda leg prisons that most of our population walks around in.
Yeah, man. So, tell us about yourself, man. How did you come to be the short steel mace king?
Oh man. So I am a 5-year-old child who loves running around on rocks, climbing mountains, getting dirty, and I got off that path for a while. I was an actor, and when you're an actor, everyone tells you have to go live in New York City because that's where all the work is. And so I stuck myself in New York City for 4 years. And the whole time, everything I wanted to do involved getting out of the city. It was, I wanted to get this job. I would audition specifically for like the theaters in Colorado or Wyoming or Maine because I wanted to get out. And then I realized that even though my goal was being on Broadway, that meant I had to live in New York City. And that wasn't worth it to me. So while all that was happening, I was also working on my personal trainer craft and found this funny thing called a steel mace that rocked my world from a fitness perspective. And I noticed that even though I was auditioning and still working to be an actor, all of my free time where I wasn't focused on that was going to fitness, was going to steel mace, was going to building this. And I realized, okay, this is where my attention naturally wants to go. I'm evolving into a different goal. So I let the goal of theater go. I realized that wasn't my goal anymore. And I joined the Strong Coach program. It cost exactly how much money I had. So after crying to my parents and a couple friends, I signed up. And it was a rocket ship ride since. I finished the program in February 2019. And by August, I was only living part-time. I was only part-time in New York City. I managed to get it so I could see all of my clients and teach my class in 2 days. So I'd spend the rest of it either at home in New Jersey or in Vermont. And that's grown to now where I'm fully remote, fully nomadic. I'm in a house right now, but for the last week I lived out of my tent going
That's
to
awesome.
I'm about to check off all the national parks in Utah.
Nice.
So now it's gone from being stuck in New York City, wishing that I could be out adventuring, to living that life and going and exploring, like, where's the most epic place I can go have breakfast? Where's the most epic place I can work out or do a coaching call? So that's the adventure I'm on right now. And Friday is when it goes back out to Utah for more shenanigans.
Bro, that sounds awesome. Fair to say you are like a Strong Coach star pupil, and I'm like this fourth tier guy. However, have this conversation. However, also experience a lot of personal enjoyment and sovereignty, and always working toward something a little better. I'm curious though. I'd like to unpack a bit about how you even came to be an actor, because what I'm getting at is you are now following, it seems to be like, your truth. I think the steel mace, I would imagine, similarly to the rope and some of these other flow tools, they're informing in such a way that it helps you see on other paths elsewhere. Are you picking up what I'm laying down?
Oh yeah.
And I'm just wondering about how much. I apologize. Yeah, there's a little lag in the thing.
Good.
Go ahead.
I was going to say,
I'm just wondering about how much your childhood and desire to be an actor was bequeathed upon you versus now your opportunities that you see for yourself.
Yeah. Oh, love that question, because it started with my parents' choice to homeschool my sister and I. Like I said, 5-year-old, runs around, jumps on rocks. I am a spirited child. And my mom realized very quickly that no teacher was going to be able to get me to sit down for 8 hours a day. And what happens, at least then, and this isn't true for all schools, but for many, it's if you can't do that, then you're a bad kid. Or if you, like, for example, I didn't read until I was 8 years old, but my first book was the biography of Daniel Boone. If I had, like, when in school, if I couldn't read at 6 or 7, then I would have been dumb. I would have been stupid, and I would have been put in a slower paced class. And there's a lot of other social things that come in with that. So with my mom's way of educating my sister and I, she called it unschooling, which it's very free form and open. Imagine where this is going. And there was the space for us to learn about whatever we were interested in. So we could get really into one thing that actually made our hearts beat faster, as opposed to, no, you have to learn what's going to be on this test.
Yeah.
So that's where it all started. And then I saw my sister do a youth opera workshop when I was 7 and she was 5 or 6. And I thought, hey, that looks cool. I want to try it. So I did it the next year when I was 8 years old, and I was hooked. And from then until 2019, I did a show every single year, at least one show every single year. That theater became the thing. Awesome. So yeah, I've been an actor for 20 years.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really cool.
It does show you are very handsy. No.
Yeah, it is I noticed that really early on when I was doing fitness. I coached at a gym called Mark Fisher Fitness in New York City, which is founded by actors, and it's a bonkers place to work.
I'm familiar with Mark. I've seen him speak before. Yeah, he was super cool.
Him and Michael Keeler are wizards. They're incredible, and that is like the best place I've ever worked. It was incredible there, and I realized even there, I am doing a performance for an hour every time I do this. So it was very clear to me that I wasn't on stage, but I was still using my degree, so to speak.
Sure. Some context for you, Mike, and if I'm out of line here, Ben, go ahead. Their mascot is a unicorn, and I have heard a rumor that there may or may not be dildos on the walls.
This is accurate.
Just say have an idea what kind
what a gym.
But also doing awesome strength and conditioning, legit. That was the thing. That was the thing.
What was incredible to me is there's all of this ridiculousness that they perpetuate at Mark Fisher Fitness, and they combine it with some of the smartest programming I've ever seen. And it's amazing because they'll do it too while they'll have these wacky themes. Like there's a class there called Circuit Party, and every circuit party has a theme. And one time, one of the trainers wrote a cult-themed circuit party. So every exercise they related back to a cult somehow. So that's the kind of stuff I was doing when I was first really went all in with coaching.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's excellent. And I would imagine it sounds like, because thank you for the context, and I am not familiar with the place, but it sounds like you came into a community of people that were following their thread, so to speak, already, and just crushing it and doing what they wanted, was fun, what was passionate, what felt good. You know, was that a part of your kind of culminating moment of leaving the city? Was there one specific, event or moment where you kind of woke up? Because it sounds like you were following your passion a bit with the acting. You found it on your own. You found it through your sister's inspiration. It's so beautiful that you got to experience that as a kid. I fully agree with you. I'm not a city guy. I feel free in the country. Looking out my window at my woods. But was there a specific moment that spurred that? You just doing your thing?
Yeah, I actually remember sitting on the roof of my then girlfriend's apartment, and we both had this moment of, holy shit, we don't have to be here right now. I think, I obviously wasn't auditioning. I think she'd already booked enough work that anything she auditioned for would conflict, so she wasn't auditioning. And I looked at my schedule, and I went, oh yeah, I can batch this to 2 days a week. Holy shit, we don't have to be here. And my lease, I was subletting I was living with her because my lease had gone up and her lease was about to go up. And yeah, we looked at that and went, well, fuck, why are we still here? Neither of us want to be here. This place does not make us feel more alive at all. Quite the opposite. So it was right then. I think I fired off texts to all of my clients, right then, speed of implementation,
sure.
and got it set up so that, that next month we moved out, and then it would be a couple days at home in New Jersey, then drive up, coach a couple days in New York City, and then my parents had a house in Vermont, and I remember the first time where, usually going up there was a vacation. But there was the first time I went up there where it was a normal part of my week. Nice. And that is something too that I do. That's the reason why I go and work out in crazy places, because I want to normalize what used to be some extraordinary vacation that required a lot of planning. Whereas now it can be I've literally had this conversation. Hey man, do you want to do breakfast in Yellowstone? Cool, let's do that.
That's a conversation I'd love to have with you. That's for sure.
Come on out.
Oh, man. Oh, that sounds amazing.
Well, what's been the most underwhelming national park, so we can cross it off the list, because we're not going to be able to catch up to you.
It's probably hard to find one.
Let's get some of the good ones in.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're all incredible.
Right on.
You negation acknowledged. You can't go wrong.
Negation acknowledged. I love it. I have a pretty good affinity with Yosemite. That's for sure.
Oh,
it's hard to beat.
Is a special magical place.
It's hard to beat.
The first time I saw Half Dome, I was driving in with some friends. I screamed so loud they thought we were about to hit a deer or something.
Dude, I proposed.
It's exactly as epic as you think it's going to be.
It's ridiculous. The first time I went with my dad. We hiked Yosemite Falls. We full on went for it. Did the whole hike. I was hooked. I brought my now fiance back there. She cried when we drove into the valley. It was so beautiful and moving. And then the next year, I proposed to her there. And dude, I was actually just talking with one of our former guests, a mentor of mine, Coach McKay. He lives in Cali, and I'm going out to visit my dad who lives out there in January, and I was like, I got to get to Yosemite. This is year 4. I got to get there. So I'm figuring that out right now, but I'm certainly envious and grateful for you to be able to be hitting all those parks. Which one's your favorite?
Glacier National Park.
Wow.
Is my favorite. It's because what I love about it is everything is, it's epic. It's incredible. And the mountains are relatively small. So when you drive in, you're all up in that immediately.
Totally. Oh my God.
You don't have to drive very far to see the epic shit. The road that just goes through the middle of the park, it defies description.
Oh,
that's dope. I'm
on the list.
Potentially a bit less traveled than you guys, but very familiar with Colorado, and I always am kind of mystified by that. It takes 20-30 minutes to get to a place to hike. Where I live here in Parrington, New York, it's known as Trail Town, USA, and you hike, you just pull over anywhere, and there's hiking trails. So something to be said for that as well. Speed of implementation. I would get a little bit of motivation from a hike. Just bump out the
East Coast. People don't give the East Coast enough credit. I was.
It's all beautiful.
I hiked. Was it Utah State High Point? And I was up there, and I had a guy take a picture for me, and I said something about high points, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing all the ones in the West because I figure the ones on the East Coast you can just drive up them." And the thing is, Mount Washington in New Hampshire, there's as much elevation gain on that hike as there are for most 14ers.
Oh yeah,
yeah. That hike has wrecked me every time I've done it.
Yeah,
so there are some serious mountains to get up in on the East Coast.
100%. Yeah.
Perhaps a little bit more of a personal question, but when you're going for hikes, are you messing around with the mace? Is that because that's where I found the mace had never really caught on for me. I have it, and it's fun to play with, but it's not as addicting as something like the rope or even clubs and stuff for me. But it was really fun to just bring on a walk and dick around with. Just wondering if that's part of your practice or not.
Oh, yeah. That's I slide it through the straps of my backpack. I did have one instance where I got myself caught in an area that was a lot steeper than it looked, and the mace got in my way in a very dangerous way. So I am much more selective on the hikes I bring the mace on.
Right.
Well, I have a mace related question. I'm a beginner at the mace, right? And this could become a greater topic, of course, as well. But hearing about you practicing in the woods, I coach a college baseball team, and the rope and flowing and moving better in general has been a real theme for me in my life lately, and now for my team too. So, what, just out of my curiosity, what weight is the best for a beginner to start at? What would be a concept?
10 pounds.
Okay, 10. And what would be your
pounds.
Basic concept you'd want to start with to help a beginner, and then to maybe also jump on the piggyback of this, confront the fear of being a beginner, right? The mace looks real scary to a lot of people. Just like playing around in this sphere of following your thread can be a little scary. So facing fears of being beginners, this is our 4th podcast. We're beginners too. Speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, so of course, the things that you see on the internet, like what people put up on Instagram, because the Seal Mace community is really big on, it pretty much exists on Instagram. People are only posting the really cool badass ninja shit that they do. Right. And Leo Urquidez, who is the creator of Steel Mace Flow, he'll say it at every certification. He did switch squats with the mace where you squat, then you switch the weight to the other side and you squat until he couldn't hold on to the mace anymore. So there's really basic movements that you start with. So, for example, there's a flow called the switch march flow where you step forward with the weight over your front leg, you step back, switch the mace, so now you're in a reverse lunge, and then you come back and you squat. And that's the first flow that I teach people when I'm coaching mace, because it's so simple. And it's really easy once you have a good understanding of that pattern to then add things onto it.
Yeah.
So it starts with, I'm going to do a forward and a back and then a squat. And it's like, what if I did forward and then stepped out laterally and then did, oh shit, I can do that. What if I did did a 360 and then stuck it out in an arrow and then stepped back? So it starts with really, it's the same thing with like, if someone walks into a gym and they want to do Olympic lifting, like the first thing you're going to have to do is, okay, how's your squat? Like, you're not even going to touch a barbell yet.
Right.
But a lot of people, the first thing people want to do when they pick up a mace is the equivalent of just walking right in and pulling a snatch cold.
Mm.
That's what most people go
for sure. Yeah.
And it's once you get a couple basics, everything else flows easily, because then it's simply a matter of applying those basics in as many ways as your curiosity will allow.
Yeah, that's well said.
So in the theater, you grew up around choreography, correct?
Yeah.
Like that. That's what you were doing. I mean, it's amazing. One of the things that kudos to you, your ability to talk through it and do it at the same time is fucking insane.
Yeah, I learned how to sing and spin around and all that.
Right, right. I think that's actually, like, my experience was more in the functional training realm, where like choreography was king, and I think I'm gravitating more toward tools that don't even have that, and like the only limitation is physics. So I like the rope flow to me is, it gets my brain in such a way that that's probably why I just like dicking around with the mace versus the choreography piece. Although I respect the hell out of it.
Yeah, the rope is a very different. I've been playing with it recently. It's a very different flavor of movement that I don't even quite know what to say about it yet. I'm in the just figuring it out phase, but it's different and it's really fun.
Yeah, and
that's our experience too.
It's good to hear you mention how fun it is too. Obviously, your roots, of course, but just exploring is the fun part, right? I mean, that's what I've really found in my kind of gains over the last year of just kind of growing into this whatever I am now. It's so fun to just explore and investigate, and man, I'm happy to meet more people that are doing the same on a daily basis. I'll tell you that much.
Fun's the point.
Totally.
Fun is the point.
Oh, hell yeah. How'd you come up with that little catchphrase as well?
I forget what book I read it in. Might have been Exuberant Animal. It talks about how animals, they learn everything by playing. Mm. They learn how to hunt by playing. They get strong by playing. Like a gorilla doesn't wake up and go like, okay, I need to swing through 10 trees this many times, make sure they're this far apart. Then the gorilla just gets up and like, oh yeah, this is cool, I'm going to do this. And then it gets jacked. So,
fuck yeah. Yes. That's exactly where I'm getting at, though. It's like, even coming from, from Mark Fisher Fitness and being exposed to like awesome programming, like how have you made the shift toward like, now fun is the point? I mean, you're coming up with flows not because it's the proper assortment of pushes versus pulls, right? It's because it's fucking cool. It feels good. Like, how have you made that sort of mental shift? Because like that's been a very difficult thing for me. I was raised in this functional training realm, and now fun is the point.
Yeah. That's a very interesting question, because it's been really gradual. Like you take progress pictures when you're on a diet, because when you look at yourself every day in the mirror, you don't see the difference. And then you look at yourself 6 months apart, like, oh, all that happened.
Right.
So it's been an interesting gradual thing. And I guess where it started was incorporating steel mace into the more conventional workouts I was doing, because I was powerlifting when I first started with the mace. And the game was, I've got like this set program that I'm doing. How can I put the mace in here so that it relates to what I'm doing? And at the same time, I'm able to use like the full capacity of the mace. So like I don't just do, well, I did my squats today, so I'm going to do more squats with the mace. It's like, what's the wildest, like what kind of really badass flow can I come up with that's still incorporating legs the way I want them to after a squat work. So that that in itself was fun for me. Like a lot of program, like even the programming of a workout is artistic expression. Like when I've got a really good steel mace workout for a client, even if I'm not going to do it, I'm like, oh shit, that's good. That's real cool. That's where it started. And then the more I got into the unconventional movements and stopped using barbells, the more that like it became a game and it became a workout at the same time. Like there's something we say at the Strong Coach is we believe in a blurry line between work and play. And that's really what I was doing, where it was let's assemble a workout, but let's make sure I do it in the most fun way possible.
Yeah, 100%. Speaking my language, no doubt. The difficulty I've had is just rectifying since COVID anyway. I feel that I have no use for a gym ever again, and it's very interesting to like shed that part of my identity. That it was lifting heavy barbells and doing heavy farmer carries. Like, make sure you get your swings and Turkish get-ups. Like, they belong in every program. And like now I'm like, I don't even care about them. I don't even personally do them. I just fuck around with a rope or a stick, go for a walk, bounce around. And now I'm way more satisfied in that. Like, fuck, I spent a lot of time and effort trying to be a coach, teach people to be good at gym.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yes, be really good at fitness, whatever that is.
Well, that's the programming, right? That's where the programming comes in. And in my, the coaching experience I've amassed is in baseball, and it's the same thing. It's, hey, do this drill, do this exercise, hit fungos this way. And, I love fun is the point. I love that you utilize that, and that's basically what I've kind of been centering in on in that realm too, which makes me really see the integration, right, of everything in your life. If you start to look through that lens, you start to let yourself create, start to notice room that maybe you didn't know was there. Have you noticed that for yourself?
Oh yeah. Yeah, and what comes to mind, especially when you're talking about that, like incorporating fun into your coaching, is a theater game that I played in acting class, where we sat in, it was like musical chairs, and so there's one less chair than people, and one person gets in the middle of the room, and they have to say something that I think that they've never done, and then if you've done that, you have to get up and switch seats. And the goal, and the teacher told us, is like, yeah, we're going to start off like vanilla, but I want y'all to get like to that question. So it started off like, I've never been to outside the country, people move, and it turned into, I've never had a threesome. Hilarious game. And like all of us laughed. We're like, I've never had a threesome, and the teacher like moved his chair over. Like everyone caught that.
Good on him.
And what that game was doing though is getting us used to being vulnerable as fuck.
Sure.
In that space, because like when you're doing theater, I've cried my eyes out in front of 4,000 people.
Totally.
And you've got to be open enough to do that, and that's what that game was teaching us.
Yeah. And
it did it in a much better way than some teacher being like, well, you have to be really vulnerable and make sure you lay it all out there. But let's do an example of that without even telling anyone we're doing it. And then that carries over to the point where when you've got to walk out on stage in a banana hammock, it's like, yeah, whatever.
Right. Oh man, that's so awesome. I never really understood all the training, that went into being an actor or actress. And it's just, what's beautiful about it is it's a lot of helping you find out who you are, which sets you up for success in a lot of ways, even if you don't necessarily make it on Broadway or on the screen.
Yeah. The ability to, it really comes down to the ability to be vulnerable with yourself. Is really where it's at. And having that, like, oh, I get high off of getting vulnerable with people. I love that shit. Like when I would have those moments.
So are you asking the threesome question?
Anyone wants to come to a threesome in the wilderness, Ben Joy Walker on Instagram. Let's talk. Let's talk.
Fortunately, we only have 2 dimensions here.
Third tent down. Oh, God. That's amazing. Yeah, and, that's such a beautiful statement. You get high off, being vulnerable with people. And I think what is so beautiful about coaches like you, it's scary to be vulnerable, right? And even like the slightest bit for most people, like, oh, man, I've never tried the mace. Like, whew. And that fear just shuts them down. How do you maybe break into that with any clients or students or even just somebody who's like, hey, what are you doing? How do you kind of meet them where they're at?
Curiosity, for sure. Like if I'm in a coaching situation and someone, like there's resistance to something, and in my mind, I know exactly what's going on. I can see it plain as day, but we've got to slowly pull that thread down till we cut away all the stories that they're layering on top of that. And we get it down to you're afraid to be vulnerable right now. Is that accurate? And when I do it right, they're like, fuck. Yeah. So it's often, in that situation, I'll hit them right with, all right, well, do it then. and make sure that they're as supported as possible. Like I remember a client he was talking about an improv class and how he was scared to take it. And I said, cool. So when before the end of this call are you going to sign up for that improv class? And everyone else on the call unmuted themselves. It was like, yeah, dude, come on. I want to know about it. Make sure you tell us. There was accountability along with it.
Yeah.
Of course. It becomes, don't just talk about it, be about it.
Yeah. And what it does take, though, is that curiosity of what Dale Carnegie says in his book, the best way to get someone to do what you want is to make them think it was their idea.
Yeah.
So getting those questions out to the point where I'm gonna ask a question that I know there's only one answer to.
Yes.
And there's the moment where I ask that question and there's the silence. That was the question. And then it's always the answer where they're like, oh, you're right. Oh, I got to do this thing, don't I?
I was going to say, yeah,
that's
a good way to piss people off because, I've definitely found myself employing that tactic with my wife and my people at work. And like, I feel a lot more confident. Like, you basically used abracadabra. You basically used your words to, and they only have one way to respond. It's very empowering. But also, how do you avoid being known as the asshole around? Like, they're very annoyed by the way that you threaded that needle.
Yeah, that's where the curiosity game comes in, because if I just gave them an order, gave them a direction, then like just telling them what to do, that's where the resistance is going to come in. And I could easily do that. What I've noticed is by getting them to say it, that takes all the air out of any resistance that they have to me.
Yeah. I could not agree more.
The aggressive one is like, all right, how's your breath right now? Like, in my head, I said, I don't know, I'm just the logical person. Like, heart dominance is my shortfall, or like, it's my third most filled resource center. So in my head, I'm like, yeah, you fucking know that you're uncomposed. But I do employ the question, the curiosity. Like, there's probably a better way to say that, I would imagine. But I just, in my head, I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. If someone said that to me, I'd recognize it instantly and be like,
Yeah, that's where the meeting people where they're at comes in.
Okay.
Like, I've had plenty of instances where, like, the voice in my head is going, "Come on,
right,
bitch, let's do this thing. Like, you know what you have to fucking do." And, that's like some football coach from when I was 12 yelling in the back of my head, and that in one way that voice is right, because that is the thing they need to do. And it is a matter of like checking in with that voice, breathing, and as like frustrated as that voice might be, if someone's still not doing the thing that like everyone except them can see plain as day that they need to do, there's I got to be curious with myself as well. I'm like, all right, well, why are you getting so triggered by this person not doing the thing? Oh, it's because you just want to be right, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, breathe that in. Love them. Meet them where they're at. Okay. That's a lot of when I'm triggered. It comes down to I just want to be right, don't I? Shit. Okay.
Yes.
Back to them. Back to focusing on them, where they're at, and let my right or wrongness go.
Yeah, Mike and I were just talking about that yesterday. But it's mind-blowing how much of life is an assumption, and like we have to strike a balance between how much we're using assumptions as a tool for essentialism, right, versus like question everything.
Yeah, what I like is what we teach in the Strong Coach is to use I imagine in that situation.
Yeah.
So, I imagine that this is like whatever I just said is bothering you. Is that accurate? And sometimes it's not that it's not what you said. It's that something else is going on over here.
Yep.
Whereas like if C wasn't happening, then we'd have A plus B equals the result you want. But because C is there, that makes everything else harder. So by saying I imagine, that then opens them up to give me accuracy on where they're at. So where then it can be, so there's this other thing that's got nothing to do with me, and that is taking up so much of your space that you can't even take in really what I'm saying. Okay, let's talk about that thing then, so that we can clear that out, and then we can make some progress in this other direction. Yeah, but again, it all comes back to being curious.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Have to be curious and follow the thread. That's so beautiful how you said that, and I could not agree more with you. And it sitting here listening to you, Ben, it's so obvious how everything intersects at communication, right? Like you spoke about centering yourself even while you're coaching that hypothetical student we had, right? As you're guiding them along their thread, you have to be gauging your temperature and checking in on yours so you can be centered. But then the importance of that communication. I mean, you've spoke about it a lot, but is there anything else you can say about, the importance of communication in just following your thread or anybody else's, or just living a better life, right?
Yeah, and for communication and living a better life, when there's something that needs to be communicated, it needs to be done ASAP. Like if there's something going on with your girlfriend where it's like, she's doing that thing again. I hate it when she does that thing. The more you let that stay in here, the worse it's going to get. Yeah. So when you have having a moment of like, hey, you said a thing, and when you said that, I felt this way. So can we talk about that thing that you said so that we can have a more harmonious relationship here? And doing it that way as opposed to, look, you can't fucking talk to me like that. You can see it's so clearly in the way people have talked about politics the last 8 years. Yeah. It's fire and fire. It's, well, you're a monster. Well, you're a communist.
Right.
No one's gonna go, they just called me a racist monster, or they just called me a socialist. Maybe I should rethink my opinions. No, they're gonna double down on it.
Yeah.
And say, well, fuck you. No, well, fuck you. So having that moment of let's sit down and talk this out. Even if you've got to put a hard stop in whatever you're doing. I even watched a movie recently with Keanu Reeves where there's a scene in the beginning where him and his wife almost get into a fight, and she says something really short to him, and he's like, hey, I don't want to get into a fight about this. And they have a moment together.
Engage knowledge.
Yeah, right.
You should have known.
I'll take what I could get with Hollywood.
You should have known.
Yeah.
What do you want, Keanu?
Exactly. I want you to come back to bed so I can finish what we started. That's what the fight's about. That moment of hey, let's breathe. Let's remember what we both want right here. What we both want is whatever our flavor of relationship we have. We want that to be harmonious. What do we need to do right now to make that happen? I'll tell you my experience. You tell me your experience. There's no judgment. I want to know what your experience is because I can't read your mind. So if we can talk this out, then we can figure out how to move forward. And that's the very long-winded answer to the question about communication, because it is vital.
No, I think you're speaking to, I think this is something Grant said on the first one, but we got on the topic of starting with why. I know I noticed that even your superior answer or superior solution to an argument, because I felt this way, so our relationship can be this, and it's important to determine why. And I think that's a lot of personal work as well, right? Why are you doing anything you're doing?
Totally.
Yeah,
but certainly with communication, and having a why prior to whether, even if it's the leading factor in your curiosity, or you have a why and you give an order or whatever. I mean, either way, a reason is helpful, I imagine.
Yeah, there's got to be it's like in theater, there's when you're playing a scene, every character has an objective, which is something they're trying to get the other person to do by the end of the scene. And that drives the whole thing. So everything's about how there's even an exercise I did in college where it's a scene that's all stage directions. There's no dialogue. And you're not allowed to do anything unless you get the impulse from something your scene partner did. So even and when that isn't present, you can tell immediately everything's flat. And the actors are, it's what we call masturbating, because they could do it by themselves. The person to do what they're doing, because they're not really acting. They're just sitting there saying, making sounds with their mouths and moving their hands. But when there's an objective, when there's something I am life or death that I'm trying to get you to do or get from you, that changes the entire scene. And it's the same thing with the rest of your life. If you're trying to, rise up a corporate ladder, or start your own coaching business, or open a coffee shop, what is the thing that you want to receive from that? What's the point to you of doing all of that? Because otherwise you're just going through the motions. And that's how you end up with golden handcuffs. Because the why was, I just want to get a bunch of money, and then you got the money, cool, your life still sucks.
Yeah, 100%.
What's the money for?
Yeah,
and are you doing it?
Well, yeah, I mean, and that speaks to maybe a more esoteric topic, but even what we were saying, an assumption, isn't really that what money is? I mean, I suppose it's trust. I suppose it's a tool of trust, but mostly it's just an assumption. If I have this money, I can do this, or I have this money. Your attention is limited to, time in this dimension, but infinite with its potential. I don't know.
And so a lot of people don't have an accurate picture of how much money they actually need to do the things that they want to do. I thought I needed way more money to do what I'm doing now than I actually need.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, just think about bullshit subscriptions people have, and it's only $2 a month, but you have 50 of them.
Well, that just speaks to, for me, that speaks to awareness, right? And being tuned in, and paying attention to what the hell you're doing in the day-to-day and how it's affecting your life, checking in with yourself. But I just want to toss it back to you, speaking about your objective and, the communication piece. What really jumped out is you talked earlier about being vulnerable and the importance of that, and how most people aren't comfortable with that, and the level of communication that the three of us understand is necessary to get what you want and live a happier life, and eventually the happiest life you can live. That vulnerability stands in the way. So do you think that creating an objective for people not only gives them direction, but can start to break down some of that vulnerability, or is it just based on reps, period,
Yes, and.
Love it.
I have a mantra practice that I've been doing for over a year now. And so that was where I got my reps. And there were a lot of things in there where I would say that mantra, and there would be times throughout my day where I would come to some choice to make, and the mantra that related to that would come to mind. And sometimes it was okay. And because I had that framework to work off of, too, with the knowing that often, in terms of a why, the thing I wanted was on the other side of that vulnerability.
That's well said.
And so the thing you want is on the other side of vulnerability. I like to say, too, fear is the finger pointing you in the direction you're supposed to go.
Also well said. Yeah. And that will drive a lot of people, for sure.
Yeah,
it's that speaks to a little bit of like the motivation behind, why Mike and I want to have these conversations, include people like yourself. He and I are we have the conversations anyway, but the vulnerability, at least for me, is the fact that it's recording. And I know that's fucking silly, but it feels strange. And I think like what I want to happen is just to have cool conversations and pretend that the recording's not there. But I'm not good at that yet. And like this is an opportunity to like get better at it. That's what we're doing. So it's all good.
Practice.
Yeah.
Practice. Because I mean, too, there's so many instances of like even like I was in a romantic relationship where, and I'll fully own that I had a whole bunch of bullshit that got in the way of that thing. I own where my role in that relationship not working. On her end, there was a history of abusive and untrustworthy men. So even though I was showing up as a loving and trustworthy man to the best of my ability with the stuff that I had to work through, statistically for her and her life experience, I was an asshole.
Yeah.
So it didn't matter what I did, because according to her life experience, her programming, men aren't trustworthy.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, but so many people are living in that, where, Kurt, to your point, the assumption is this man's not trustworthy, this woman's not trustworthy, this group, this teacher is not trustworthy. So all they can see is untrustworthy people. And it takes a lot of reps to get used to like, oh, trustworthy people do exist. I can share this and have it accepted. And I'm here. Hey, I'll be vulnerable right now on this recording. It does seem that vulnerability and relationships for me do go well together. There was a girl I was seeing. We didn't have any sort of official title for our relationship, and we were both on separate paths geographically. And there was this thing coming up for me of, man, she's amazing. And at the same time, I know I have to be on this mission. She's on her mission right now. I don't want to lose her from my life. But at the same time, if another girl shows up who blows my mind, it feels constrictive to me at the moment, because I've got this assumption that I have to be monogamous in this situation, that I am now monogamous. And I talked it out with a buddy, and he was like, well, yeah, I mean, you need to talk to her about it. And I was like, yeah. So I did. We were FaceTiming and chatting, and then there was a moment of silence, and I was like, shit, right here. So there's something I've been noodling on, and immediately everything tightened up, and I had to breathe. Like I had to pause a couple times and breathe. And I said, I'm noticing this feeling of obligation to be monogamous right now, and that feels restrictive to me because we're on separate paths. So I would like to be able to be open to other connections with women. And she said, okay.
Right.
And I just laughed.
The anxiety was an illusion.
All that build up, it all out there, and it's, yeah, like I can't hold you to be anything, I'm not out there with you, and I'm not coming out there. So, and it was so easy to do. So now I've got that tucked away in my confirmation bias, that when I express something like that to anyone, it'll be received. And even if it's not received, that means that person's not a part of my circle. That's not a person that I want, that they're not in a place to receive my vulnerability. So it's a win-win, because either I get to share really vulnerably with someone and get what I want in a way that works for everybody, or, oh, this is some person who was actually weighing down my life. Cool. Goodbye.
It's self-selective for sure. Yeah, so it's something I've noticed, throughout COVID, where there were a number of people that were acquaintances. That's fine. There's no love lost between us, but like haven't gone out of our way to make plans during all this, and like it's the equivalent of like turning your shirt hanger around, and if you don't wear it for 6 months, like it's okay. Let's like move on to something that meets your goals for life. Yeah,
it comes down to, is this, and I got slapped in the face with this question the first time it was asked, and I loved it. Is this expansive or constrictive? It's a yes or no question. Is this expansive? Because if the answer is no, then it's constrictive. And that means you got to pick a different path. That's one thing I do really appreciate in coaching, because I usually like to ask open-ended questions. Every now and then, though, a strategic yes or no question gets people right where it needs to get them. And they go, okay. Oh, I see now. I get what I need to do.
Totally.
So, yeah, like those connections, even like looking at them, like, would it be expansive for me to continue to have this person in my life? Yes or no?
Right.
And being accepting of whatever that answer is.
Love it, dude. That's the goal.
Yeah, I love that question.
I mean, we can extrapolate that and relate it to, even a movement practice, though. You said, like, getting someone to feel vulnerable. Like, how much, particularly with tools like the mace or the rope, like, how much of their limitation is just an assumption, like, oh, my body doesn't do that. Like, well, yeah, if you just chilled out for a second, it would. You have
it's the same thing that
skeleton like mine.
The dance floor.
Yeah, 100%.
Which was me until recently. Inherently vulnerable. Oh yeah, that's the thing. I was fine getting up in front of people being a dancing butter knife in front of 4,000 people for 2 years, but get me on a dance floor,
right?
Immediately tighten up.
Interesting. Oh, that's so cool.
It is. All of us just trying to do it, man. It's day by day, but as long as you're moving the needle, I feel confident about it. Life's fun. Fun is the point, like you said.
And the thing is, the people around you want you to be having fun. I think that's the thing too, is like, oh, if I start dancing, people are going to see I'm a terrible dancer. What I noticed when I finally started dancing was I wasn't looking at anyone else. I was just dancing. So they went, oh, everyone else is just dancing too. They're not looking at me.
Yeah.
Because they want, it's in everyone's best interests for everyone to be having a good time. That's what I would tell people when they'd ask me about audition advice. I'd say, recognize that everyone on the other side of that table wants you to be good. Because it's in their best interest, because they want the best people for their show. So they want everyone who walks in that door to be good. They're all rooting for you. Everyone is rooting for you. And if you can really embody that and breathe that in and like look around and go, okay, if everyone around me is rooting for me, what can I do if I truly believe that, which is what's most accurate, that everyone around me is rooting for me? Oh, yeah. I can get my groove on.
Right, and to your point, like leading with that authenticity, if someone's not accepting that or not picking up on that frequency, like perhaps they don't belong in your inner circle, and it's all good anyway. Oh, if you think I'm being silly because I'm dancing out of control, like I guess that's your opinion. Have fun.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, how does my dancing actually affect you? Just let me do it.
It's sad how many missed dances there are out across the universe, man. These people just want to get grooving.
Yeah, I'm looking to make up for lost time as soon as at some festival somewhere. As soon as we can do that.
Yeah, dude. Do you think? Have you seen any steel mace at festivals? People have asked me that about bringing the rope. I think the rope would be cool, but the mace is probably a little bit weaponized.
Yeah, that'd be tricky. I think it would work at Burning Man. I've had people tell me like, oh yeah, if you bring a mace, you will flow on stage at Burning Man. So that's my goal, is to go to Burning Man, light my mace on fire, and flow on stage with whoever's there.
Oh fuck yeah!
So I find it interesting though that you had some anxiety about the dance floor. How do you navigate like doing steel mace in areas where it may not be all that recognized? You know, do you have feelings about like, hey, I'm the weird guy? Like, one thing I love doing is climbing trees, and I'm a 33-year-old man, and it took me a few years to like be over it, just like the dancing. But now I'm kind of like, it's clear it's not my first time doing this, and I'm happy, and it's authentic, and so it feels free. Do you have any fear about that?
Sometimes, yeah. There's plenty of times where I'm getting my stuff out of my car to do a workout, and I see there are people around, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll wait until they leave to start. And what it took was noticing, what do people actually do when they look at me? Like, hey, if I'm wearing sunglasses, they can't tell I'm looking at them, so I'm spying on them sometimes while I'm flowing. And I looked, and most people, from their facial expressions, I imagined, looked interested or admiring. So, right. Like, the people who would come up to me when they spoke, they'd be like, "That's really cool. You look amazing doing that. How do you do that?" Like, and they would ask me all these questions. So, what I love doing with people, whenever they're making up those stories and those assumptions, is, okay, what can you notice? Which noticing is something that's inarguable. 100 out of 100 people will agree the sky's blue and the grass is green. You can notice those. So what do you notice? Oh, that person smiled when they looked at me. Oh, that person followed me on Instagram after they met me. Oh, that person, because I had this happen, just swinging mace in a park, that person signed up to be my client.
Nice.
After seeing me.
Right.
What assumptions can I make from that evidence?
For sure.
Which the only assumption that I can make personally when I see that is, oh, I'm fucking killing it out here and I look like a badass. Cool, I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah, and that can replace the assumption of, oh, people are going to think I'm weird. Who gives a shit?
I love that. You know, and that's something that took me years and years too, and I still experience that as well. Particularly when I bring the steel mace. Like, I almost don't want to be asked about it because I'm not good at it. Like with the rope,
define good.
With the rope, I'm going to impress somebody.
I'm going to slash that story right now. Define good.
Compared to you.
Yeah.
Way less smooth on that tool. I mean, I could school you on some other implements, no doubt, but with the steel mace, it feels very awkward. And it's funny, it's just acknowledging that relative vulnerability of like confidence in your skills. And it seems like kind of an inverse relationship, you know, and the more confident you can become and the less you're concerned about whether the person's right. Otherwise, like, their judgment, your fear of their judgment is that they're correct. You know? Versus, like, your fear that they're judging you. You're like, I am fucking killing this, though, so I don't care.
Exactly. And I do like how many times you pointed out the years and years. Because it's not, oh, now I'm totally cool, shaking my thing out in front of everybody. It takes reps and reps and reps and reps and reps, and each rep gets more and more comfortable the more you do it. And actually, I saw this great analogy. A guy was talking about a video game. When you play like an epic fantasy video game, you start up with some piece of shit sword and a wooden shield. Do you stop playing the video game because you've got crappy weapons?
No way.
No, you keep going because I want to get better weapons so that I can fight the boss. It's the same
100%.
thing here. Like, you pick up the mace the first time and you feel like a baby giraffe with it. Do you stop just because of that? Or do you keep going because you know where you want and can be with that?
Yeah, I'm sure. I imagine curiosity helps in that manner too, where you can ask somebody else if they seem intimidated by your skill. You're like, "What do you love to do?" Because I'm sure you can beat my ass at that, but like my attention's been spent over here, and it shows. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's what I like. Actually, I love comparing myself to Leo Urquides, because if anyone watches him move, he's a master. He's incredible.
Yeah,
and
very.
He's only been doing mace a year longer than I have, but he's put in 10 times more hours than I have.
Yeah,
and it shows. So I can look at that, and I'm not going, "Oh man, I can't move like Leo." I didn't want to put in that many hours. So this is how I do. Because of that.
That's such a good recognition.
Right with that. He's perfect where he is. I'm perfect where I am. And I know that if I wanted to get that good, it's a matter of putting in way more hours. And it's
right, you're not Leo.
Or not. Yeah.
You're not Leo, you're you. And like, you mentioned something earlier too, the concept of opportunity cost though. Like, I think it was about the two girls, right? If something else came along and you were bound to the one you weren't with, basic economics says you devote attention to this one thing. You're not doing the other thing. So like totally speaks to your point. Like it's okay that some people want to be experts. People want, acknowledge that they likely will be better than you. There are exceptions to those rules, but we're all the best one of us, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to believe that. That's what I want, the message that I'd like to contribute to, I guess, in this short time on Earth. There's only one you, and like, be the best one.
And that's where
celebrate yourself for every single little thing. One of my mantras is I celebrate everything. And I celebrate everything. When I finish a coaching call, I do a fist pump like I just won the Super Bowl.
I love it.
I like that.
There's no such thing as a little win. Every win should be celebrated like it's fucking life-changing and huge.
See, in my head, I'm like, I can't do that because it's silly.
Exactly.
And it's weird because the things that but the things that I can do that other people haven't devoted time and energy to, they could think that they can't do it because it's silly, but it's like, dude, just do it. Just maybe do it. I celebrate everything. Writing down in the mantra.
That's a really fun mantra.
Let's go, bro.
Really fun mantra.
Hell yeah. And that's, to me, that's where the freedom lies too, right?
Celebrate the sun on the other side of
knowing that you can be the best, only you can be the best you. And, I've gotten caught up in this in my career even. Oh, I want to be like that coach. I want to win the World Series like that guy did in whatever year. And I don't. I just want to be the best at me. And finding that out was really, really freeing for me. And really haven't found it out till this past year. And if you asked my players, they probably are having the most fun they've ever had with me at the helm. And it's not a coincidence.
I'm having the most fun as your best friend.
Well, fucking, that's all that really matters, bro.
I'm having the most fun on this podcast. This is great.
Well, that is also good. I'm really happy to hear that.
You want to be friends, Ben?
We're friends,
dude. We're friends, dude. Celebrating.
Hell yeah, dude. I love that so much. I'm definitely going to fold that into my little daily practice, too, because I'd like to think I'm more grateful than most, but why not be grateful for just everything, right? Oh, my God.
Catch a glass before it falls off a table. Go, oh, fuck yes, athlete. What's up?
Because that's actually one that I do, though. I mean, actually, I happened to catch one of your posts from a week or so ago. You said, like, one of your steel mace moves, like, caught you and kind of maybe saved your ass. You did, like, a dragon lunge or whatever. Like, those are the thoughts that I have sometimes if I catch the banana peppers that I had knocked out of the fridge. Like, catch it. I'm like, fuck, yes. I trained for this shit. Yeah, I really do. I do. I swear to God. Well, you don't know my wife, man. She'll be on my ass if I spill those banana peppers.
You've got a double incentive. Have fun and make sure your wife's happy.
Yes, and those are like mutually supportive, no doubt.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh man, so beautiful.
That's probably an excellent place to cut it. I mean, we are going to release this to the Matrix, but you see what we're trying to do here. It's more of an organic thing. Probably like make some clips of some awesome shit that you said. But for anybody who wants to listen and hasn't already found you on your social media platforms, why don't you holler? And,
sure thing.
Words as well.
So my Instagram is BenJoy Walker, and that's where I've got all my traveling shenanigans. And something you will see me talking about more on there, I want to share my unreasonable vision, vulnerably. It's called Operation Follow Spring North. This was born from spending the first 2 months of quarantine in southern Utah, which in the spring is glorious. So we're going to start in March, Tucson, Arizona. Then we're going to road trip and Airbnb our way up through southern Utah to Tahoe, Shasta, up through Oregon, Washington, finishing in Katmai National Park, Alaska, and then we're going to go to Hawaii.
Oh, man.
And the mantra is I create the hangout environment. So I want a caravan. We're practicing for Mad Max right now and doing it in the most fun way possible. So March 2021, I'm going to be in Tucson, Arizona, going to follow spring all the way up into Alaska, and I want as many people along that ride as possible. So if that tickles your fancy, BenJoy Walker's the Instagram, shoot me a DM, and I would love to hop on the phone and tell you more about how all that works, because it's going to be sick.
Oh, man.
That's awesome, Ben.
That is going to be sick.
Thanks for joining us, man. That'll be something to consider for show. And until then, we're going to be celebrating all the little victories.
Hell yeah. Celebrate this conversation. I know I'm grateful for the opportunity to chat with you, Ben. Thank you so much, dude.
My pleasure. This has been a blast.
Well, I know we'll be in touch.
We'll certainly be following, and hopefully we'll connect again.
Sounds good. I'll look forward to it.
See you, dude.
Later.
See ya.